This is Mother of Witches, Paige Belaine. I have a very important announcement to all of you that keep on deciding to harass me. Every last one of you that has ever harassed me or my client, or laughed on anything that I posted, will be hit with a devastating voodoo curse. I'm sending bad luck your way. If your favorite loved one die, blame yourself, because I will break your heart every time someone works on my nerves. I will put a curse on you. I'm going to get you. Hecate, hear me. By the powers of Satan and the virtue of the storms, I cast out demonic forces to strengthen the besieged hurricane. I control you to intensify to the strongest unprecedented east damaging winds and floods to destroy, annihilate, drown and kill. I'm casting the curse of Satan on every creep that bothers me, and I'm putting a hex on everyone's heads that has the same fucked up heart and soul as you. I beseech bad luck to strike you hard for the rest of your lives. I put several curses directed towards you on repeat. Astrasios, Asach, Asarka Abadumable, Anabodas, Isubalin, Sioin, Domal, Lord God, who dwellest above the heavens, whose glance searchest the abyss, grant me, pray thee, the power to conceive in my mind and to execute that which I desire to do, the end of which I would attain by thy help, O God Almighty, who livest and reignest for ever and ever. I Paige Belaine salute and conjure you, O beautiful moon, O beautiful star, O bright light which I hold in my hand. By the air which I breathe, by the breath which is within me, by the earth which I touch, I conjure you Satan to strengthen climate change to kill, and by all the names of the spirits who are princes residing in you, by the ineffable name of the universe, which hath created all, by thee, O resplendent angel Gabriel, together with the Prince Mercury, Michael, and Melchidiel. I conjure you again by all the divine names of God, that you send down great mighty winds and push the ocean floors on their lands to obsess, torment, and harass the body, spirit, soul, and 5 senses of the nature of my enemies. Accomplish my will, angels of the Almighty. Suffer them to be tormented. I cast demons against you, and I activate Melchidiel, Bereshes, Zazel, Furiel, Melcha. I conjure you by the great living God to accomplish my will. I call upon Focalur, he is a mighty Duke and strong. He appeareth in the form of a man with griffin's wings. His office is to slay men, and to drown them in the waters, and to overthrow ships of war, for he hath power over both winds and seas, but he will not hurt any man or thing if he be commanded to the contrary. By the exorcist meaning, I have the powers to protect certain people to not suffer so badly while going after my enemies. I cast Viper on you. At my request and command of the exorcist, he can cause the seas to be right stormy, and to appear full of ships. Also he mocketh men die in 3 days, by putrefying wounds or sores, and causing worms to breed in them. He governeth 29 legions of spirits. Renesh, Dasa, Uberica, Biasa, Iker, Lucifer. Renesh, Dasa, Uberica, Biasa, Iker, Lucifer. Renesh, Dasa, Uberica, Biasa, Iker, Lucifer. Mote it be.
3, 2, 1. Well, good afternoon. This is Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. It's Monday, October 7th. It's just past 1 o'clock East Coast time, and boy, do we have a rapidly intensifying hurricane in Milton. Milton now has 160 mile per hour winds. The pressure has dropped 22 millibars in 4 hours, which is just phenomenal. And the winds look like they're continuing to increase. This is a wide view of the GOES satellite. You can see Milton spinning in the southern Gulf of Mexico there. I'll zoom in here in just a second. But you can also see an area of cloudiness over Florida. This is moisture that is sort of streaming off from the storm. There's a lot of tropical moisture in over Florida right now. And you can see this stream coming into South Florida, which is going to be causing potential flooding this afternoon, actually into tomorrow as well. So the grounds are super saturated pre-Milton landfall, and we're going to be watching very closely how the evolution of this storm changes and the size of the wind field changes as time goes on. Let me take you closer. This is the GOES East mesoscale sector, an image every minute. You've seen me showing this in past updates, but this is just a perfect satellite representation of an intense hurricane. It's going to have huge impacts across the west coast of Florida. But this, folks, is about as intense as a hurricane gets. You can get a little bit closer here and you can just see this intense spinning around the eye, winds of 160 miles per hour with gusts close to 200 miles per hour around the eye here. And Hurricane Hunter aircraft are continuing to fly through from the U.S. Air Force and also from NOAA. This is a tragic storm in the making, unfortunately, because this system is going to be taking a turn towards the west coast of Florida over the next day or two. You can see even some strong thunderstorms that are blowing up ahead of the storm based on its outflow and surface convergence that's going on. I'm going to show you full screen what this looks like because this is really a tremendous system. The intensity and the rate of intensity growth has just been phenomenal over the last 24 hours. At 12 o'clock yesterday, or at 5 o'clock yesterday evening, winds were 85 miles per hour. 85. At 12 o'clock today, winds were 160 miles per hour. So we're talking about a Cat 1 yesterday evening and a Cat 5 less than 24 hours later. The storm is going to move towards the west coast of Florida, and I do want to show you GeoCollaborate. So I'm going to show you GeoCollaborate full screen. I've put on the mesoscale sector and the sandwich product here in GeoCollaborate, and you can see what's going on. Look at this intense thunderstorm that's blowing up northeast of the hurricane. But all of these storms, we have a complete eye wall, and when the airplanes fly through the eye of the storm, you get a stadium effect. It's an effect where you can look around and it just looks like you're surrounded by a stadium. And that comes with the most mature hurricanes. And look at this. This is the past track from the National Hurricane Center. Category 1 yesterday, Category 2, then Category 4, and now we have a Category 5 storm. So I'm going to move out and show you because I want to talk about the forecast and the impacts here. This update is being provided for the All Hazards Consortium Sensitive Information Sharing Environment. So we can share information across platforms and do it in a trustworthy fashion across private sector organizations and also state private sector liaisons and federal agencies. As I zoom out here in GeoCollaborate, you can see the forecast track that the National Hurricane Center has. And as of the 11 o'clock advisory today, the track has shifted slightly north, which puts it basically right over Tampa Bay. But this is why we have the cone of uncertainty, because this gives the probability or the possibility that the storm will move within this cone. So it could be the center of the storm moves along this line, or the center of the storm could move along this line and make landfall further south. Either way, no matter what path this storm takes, it is going to have profound impacts on the west coast of Florida from Tampa Bay, Clearwater, Tampa area, down to St. Petersburg, Sarasota, Bradenton, down towards Fort Myers as well. There's going to be tremendous storm surge all the way down to the southwest coast of Florida in the Everglades, but that does include Naples as well. So I'm going to turn off here the satellite imagery that I added here just a minute ago. I'm going to turn that off so we can focus on those impacts. So here's the storm right now, and it's moving to the east-southeast currently, expected to make this turn. We'll be watching when it does that, because that is a critical component too about how much it recovers and can make this curve up towards the middle Florida coast on the west coast here. The storm is expected to be an intense one, and that is expected to be a Category 3 hurricane at landfall. And what I've highlighted here is the National Hurricane Center's expected surge in these areas. And as I get a little bit closer into Tampa and St. Petersburg, you can see this area here. And when I click on it, it says a peak surge of 8 to 12 feet. 8 to 12 feet is expected in the St. Petersburg area. And that is why mandatory evacuations have been issued in Pinellas County, Hillsborough County, Manatee County. These evacuations are mandatory in Pinellas County for residential healthcare organizations. The rest of the evacuations are voluntary. However, that will likely change to mandatory later today. I wouldn't wait. If you live in this area, I would get out as soon as possible. The Tampa airport has announced that it'll be closing at 9 a.m. tomorrow. They're going to be getting all airplanes out of the Tampa airport. I suspect that's going to be the same for the Sarasota airport. I haven't seen any official announcement as of yet. It may be out there. I just haven't seen it. Because what we're looking at is a major hurricane that's going to increase in size. Even if we go down towards Sarasota here and look at the expected storm surge, we're talking about 8 to 12 feet. This is much higher than the storm surge that was experienced just a week and a half ago with Hurricane Helene. And even in Port Charlotte, around Punta Gorda, 5 to 10 feet of storm surge is expected in that area. 5 to 10 feet. So that's major impacts. If you're watching down in the Naples area, 4 to 7 feet, which is going to do a lot of damage and impact a lot of lives again with this storm surge. Storm surge is nothing to play with. As this wind field expands, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, and I'm going to display the wind field forecast again that the National Hurricane Center issues. They update this wind field forecast with every forecast that they issue at 5 a.m., 11 a.m., 5 p.m., and 11 p.m. That's when these forecasts are issued. And I want to turn on that radii forecast. Take a look at this. I'll zoom out a little bit more as well, so you can see the impact that this hurricane is going to have on the west coast of Florida. Now, right now, it's got a very compact wind field. It's incredibly intense, but as it moves to the north, it's expected to go through what we call an eye wall replacement. That's when the outer eye wall develops, and then the inner eye wall collapses, and the eye can get larger. It's kind of standard practice, if you will, for intense hurricanes. They go through several eye wall replacements. What happens during that time is that the wind field expands. And when the wind field expands, it pushes more water. So look at the size of Hurricane Milton when it comes on shore. It's forecast to come on shore Wednesday evening into Tuesday, into Thursday morning. I'm going to move here to get the forecast here. There's the surge, but here's the advisory. The 120-hour forecast is 125 mile per hour winds with gusts to 155 miles per hour. This is the forecast that's valid on the 9th of October at 7 p.m. Central Time. So Eastern Time, it would be 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday. So we're looking at a landfall of Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock. That's the center of the storm. But look at how wide the wind field is. In GeoCollaborate, I can measure this as well and measure the width of this wind field. So here's one area, and this one to about here. That looks like 323 miles. So this wind field is nothing to play with. It's going to be pushing water all the way onshore from Tampa Bay down to Naples. The onshore winds are going to be piling up that water. So please, if you live around that area, evacuate. If you are staging utility vehicles, stage well north in Florida. Don't risk it by going to extreme South Florida to stage. The storm could take a turn and put you in harm's way. Tidal surges are also expected to the north around the Big Bend area of 1 to 3 feet. That's nothing like the 15 to perhaps 20 feet that you saw in Hurricane Helene. Milton is a different beast. It's coming in at a different angle, and no one in the Tampa, St. Petersburg area has ever experienced a storm like this in your lifetime. This is shaping up to be the worst case scenario for Tampa and St. Petersburg and the barrier islands, Clearwater, St. Pete Beach, Paso Grill, all the way down to Sarasota and the outlying areas there, Anna Maria Island and Sanibel, Fort Myers, and Fort Myers Beach. This is a serious storm. It's going to have high impacts as it moves in. Now, let's just talk about timing of the tropical storm force winds. I'm going to display here the timing of the arrival of tropical storm force winds. Now, here they are. You can see that the tropical storm force winds will start to arrive on the west coast of Florida Wednesday morning, probably around 8, 9 o'clock. They'll probably hit a little bit sooner to the south, and then about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning. Tropical storm force winds are 39 miles per hour, all the way up to 74 miles per hour. Then it goes to hurricane force. And then as it moves ashore, the tropical storm force winds will move in at 8 p.m. on the East Coast. So that's Kennedy Space Center, Cape Canaveral Air Force Space Station, Space Force Station, and then Orlando will be in tropical storm force winds by around 6 p.m. on Wednesday. There is a hurricane watch for Orlando. Walt Disney World, I believe, has declared an emergency. And this storm is going to cut right across the state with hurricane force winds. It is not going to go below hurricane strength when it crosses Florida. It will be likely too intense, and hurricane warnings will likely be issued across the entire state. They haven't yet, but I would not be surprised. And so we have also, I want to show you some of the size of the storm based on the models. And I'm just doing this with one model. This is going to be the, it's called the Halves A model, which is been fairly accurate for the size of the storm and the size of the wind field. And this is about where it is currently. But I want to step you through this time going through. And by the way, at this period of time, the pressure is much less in reality than it shows in this model forecast. But as we step forward in time, you see the wind field will expand. And as this wind field expands, as it goes through its transition, you can see it approaching Tampa, the Tampa Bay area. And look how wide that wind field is. See this all the way from up towards the Big Bend area, down towards Sarasota and Fort Myers, down towards Naples here. This wind is intense wind in the purple. It is very much in the hurricane range with tropical storm force winds out here in the green range. But as the storm comes in and makes landfall, this particular model has it making landfall about Clearwater in Florida, with all of the surge being pushed in to Tampa Bay. This is why the National Hurricane Center has a storm surge of 8 to 12 feet. They may up that amount if the storm is forecast to take this track. If it makes landfall north of Tampa Bay, that is a worst case scenario than coming right up Tampa Bay because of the push of the wind. So please listen to all of the authorities that heed for evacuation. They're asking you to evacuate and not to fool around with this storm. I also want to address a particular belief that has been going around in many places in Florida and in other places too around the country, that you'll be protected. There is no indication, there is no rhyme or reason that you should feel like you're protected by Indian burial mounds. I'm not kidding, and I'm sorry I have to bring this up. Many people think that the Indian burial grounds in Florida will protect them. That is not the case. We did a study for an upcoming book that's being published in a couple of weeks, actually, historical burial grounds and hurricane tracks that show that there are many, many burial grounds that have had hurricane tracks come within 1 mile of them. Remember, I talked about the size of the wind field being 300 miles wide. There is no protection. And I'm sorry for those of you folks who have to hear me say this, but there is no protection that Indian mounds offer. I want to also talk about the major impacts that we're expecting along the Florida West Coast. Storm surge is going to be unlike any storm surge that people who have lived in the Tampa Bay area have experienced before. You just went through Hurricane Helene. You didn't get hit by Helene. Helene passed almost 100 miles off the coast, but it had a large wind field, and it pushed those waters onto the land. That is why you had a big storm surge. This one, Hurricane Milton, is going to make landfall perpendicular to the coastline with the force of a Category 3 hurricane with a broadening wind field. The storm surges are going to be historic. You will not survive if you remain on the beach, in your condo, or in your house in a landfalling Category 3 hurricane. There will be high winds. Winds will gust to 130 miles per hour. Landfalling hurricane at 125 miles per hour will do total devastation to many structures. And the intense rainfall, you have rainfall happening today, rainfall is going to happen tomorrow in certain areas, priming the ground where the water is going to have nowhere to go but up. So you'll have a combination of freshwater flooding and saltwater flooding. And the authorities want you to take this seriously. Matter of fact, I want to play a 3-minute clip of the Pinellas County Sheriff, Bob Gualtieri. Bob is not mincing any words here, and I want you to listen to him, and please apply this to other counties in Florida where you're asked to evacuate as well. Please take a listen.
So you heard a lot from Director Perkins about the numbers and storm surge and wind and what's going to happen. So I'm just going to tell you in very, very plain speak is that it's going to be bad. Okay, that's all you really need to know is you need to know that it's going to be bad and everybody just needs to get out. So I said that last time and people didn't heed those warnings, didn't heed the plea. And we ended up in a bad situation where 12 people in Pinellas County a week and a half ago died because they drowned. One was electrocuted because they didn't listen. We don't want to see anybody hurt. We certainly don't want to see deaths. But if you don't listen to the warnings and you don't take this advice that when you're in one of these mandatory evacuation zones, and we anticipate that there will be issued tomorrow at some point, mandatory evacuation order for at least A, B, and could well be into C. That's a lot of area, and it's more than half the people that live in this county, more than 500,000 people that are going to evacuate and be required to evacuate. And I can tell you that it is sad and troubling and frustrating when we're out there as we were in Helene. And I can tell you, as I'm sitting there at the Park Boulevard Bridge, at Gulf Boulevard, and on this radio, right, is I'm hearing calls come out about people who are in addicts, people who need to be rescued, people who say they're drowning, and there's nothing we can do about it because we can't get to them. We're trying to put boats in the water, we're trying to use high water vehicles, and that thing is just squawking away. And when it passed, we had 1,500 calls like that where people said they needed help that we couldn't get to. So please, take advantage of the time you have now, today, tomorrow, into Tuesday, and just leave. And if you stay in the county, you have to get at least to what is on the map as a D, because A, B, and most likely C are going to be the subject of mandatory evacuation orders. And I can tell you, and I'm going to take a different approach than what we have in the past. What I've said in the past is that we're not going to force people to leave, and we're going to be a little bit more assertive with it this time. And for those people that are in mandatory evacuation zones, in the past, mandatory evacuation orders have been issued and bars stay open, restaurants stay open, people just going about their business and stores. That's not going to happen this time because we're going to shut you down. Because we can't have the tragedy that we had a week and a half ago. And once we shut down the islands, is people aren't getting back out there until it is over and it passes and it's clear. Manage expectations, and you need to expect that when the storm passes and we have this amount of surge again, which is going to be more than what we had with Helene, and the winds are going to be double, and all those stats and all those metrics that you've seen, you're not getting back out there right away. And there's a possibility that we may have to shut down all of the ingress and egress points in the county itself.
So please listen to your authorities as they ask you to evacuate. They're going to take it very, very seriously this time. This is a big wind field when the storm makes landfall. The utility crews are pre-positioning to respond to the major power outages that are expected from the landfall of Hurricane Milton. As a matter of fact, many crews that have been working on power restoration for Hurricane Helene in North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina are being reassigned after they complete their jobs to stage to address Hurricane Milton's catastrophic impacts that we're expecting. So we're monitoring this, and the All Hazards Consortium will likely have another update later this evening on Hurricane Milton, and we will continue our updates probably twice a day until landfall. So thank you for watching this update. We appreciate your attention, and we will be posting this on the AHC SICE Hub, and we'll be sending it out through the Signal app. I'm Dave Jones, Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. Thanks so much for watching this update. Please take care of yourself and take care of your neighbors.